Good morning, everybody. As you've seen, Mido, for some years now, apart from trying to increase the number of exhibitors, Mido has been trying to increase the number of services to give adequate space, but also food for thought for stakeholders, offering something new year after year. We've just ended a presentation along with Simo, and we wanted to give an indication on major European countries, and this year 4 additional countries have been added. We're here today to speak about something new. We're here with Francesco Morace, famous sociologist. He shall speak about the future, generations and trends between style and consumption in the world of eyewear. It's an observatory considering the future. Future Concept Lab was set up by his company, and it identifies, analyzes society, lifestyle, consumption and trends. It's an analysis of eyewear, our field, and I'm quite fast and I'd like to give him the floor. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Thanks a lot, President. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today in such a crowded room, in such an important trade fair, and with figures which are quite high and important. And now we should speak about it. I believe it's important to consider figures and data that you've just seen, and instead make a reflection together, qualitative reflection. At the basis of figures, you have people, you have persons. You have to get into life of persons, observe persons, and understand their preferences, their behaviors and values. Values whereby such persons buy sunglasses, eyewear, lenses, or certain services. This is our role, and today we shall give you just an indication because the observatory is highly structured and rich. If you want to go to the more area, you can see all the images of this research, of this lab. And you shall see 6 different generations indicated here, and I'm simply going to speak about 2 of them because we cannot say here hours to speak about the results of the research. And if you're interested, if you're curious in some areas of the trade fair, and specifically in the more section, you can find documentation and material on all the various generations. And then I will speak about one of such 3 trends. These are purely style-based trends. In this sector, in the fashion world, we need to identify trends because it's important to understand preferences. And it's a world with its own rules. It's the fashion world. And Valentina Ventrelli, I'm a sociologist. And as a consequence, I interpret such materials, and Valentina, for so many years, has been working for us for 30 years. She's a fashion expert. She should speak about one of such trends. The last one, which is perhaps the most radical one, which is the strongest one, and she should speak about the technologies whereby we put together such aspects, interpretations of the various generations. I won't give you a sociological introduction. That would be too boring, but I'd like to say 2 things. Up until 10 years ago, working on generations meant working on separate worlds and sometimes conflicting worlds. There was a generational conflict. 30-year-old persons dressed differently than their parents, and they did so on purpose. They wanted to make a cultural difference vis-à-vis previous generations. And nowadays, this type of relationship has changed completely. We have grandparents that together with their nephews, and nieces, they choose accessories together surfing the web. And we should see second age group, pleasure growers, is a very interesting group. Europe is an aging country, is an aging continent, and Italy, after Japan, is a country where we live longer than all the others. At 60, 70 years of age, we have vitality, energy, and a desire to be trendy and fashionable, and it wasn't so 30, 20 years ago. And working on generations means working on a lab, and in some cases it's unexpected lab, because in labs you make experiments and unexpected phenomena come to surface, and themes are intergenerational themes. And in the trend that Valentina will be dealing with, yes, there's a core that represents this style trend the most, but there are certain blurred boundaries. That's the premise. And which techniques have we used to work on materials? You shall see. And for 25 years, we've had a network of correspondents in 40 cities in 25 countries. And during the Mido Observatory, we activated 10 of such cities. And for sure, those European cities, the GfK research talked about Milan, Berlin, Amsterdam, Paris. But then you also have some cities that, together with the team and top management, we have identified New York, Buenos Aires, Sao Paulo, the Brazil, United States, Southern America, because our idea in the course of time is to cover major, interesting emerging markets that haven't been considered so far. And the idea is to also get to Asian countries and other parts of the world. And today we shall submit the results of this observation in 10 European, USA, Southern American cities. And another important element, and then we shall get into the description of the first generation. And perhaps this is an unexpected element. We're getting out of a phase when quality of products, quality of experience, as it was said, will be less and less. Fortunately, after 5, 6, 7 years of economic crisis, and we're getting out of it, and the collective idea was to renounce the quality of products and get into the so-called low-cost dimension, where priority is saving, because there are no economic resources, because in any case life is more and more difficult, and this for sure was true. But today we can state, and we are happy to state it, that not just in Italy, but not just in Europe, but in many other countries, we have again this dimension, that is to say, quality of life, but also quality of products and quality of services. What does it mean? It means that first and foremost, we have an extraordinary opportunity for Italian companies that have in their DNA the idea of doing things well. Things that are beautiful and well done. We shall also see non-Italian examples, and because this is also possible elsewhere, there are some entities that try and identify distinctive qualitative elements, doing something different and do it well, getting out and setting aside this idea we've been living with for so many years, that we're in an image society where just communication counts and style counts. Style has the ability to provoke and basically real quality of products is perceived to be less important. And today instead we say that things have changed, and people in the past few years had an experience of better and worse quality. They can strike the right balance between price and quality of things they buy, and they want to have again positive experience, perhaps less, but sometimes less is more. And perhaps they purchase less, but what they purchase should contain quality, should last long, should be original, and you no longer have those distinctions whereby you choose function or aesthetics. In our heads, such two things converge, and we speak about biology of consumption. It's not the theme of image, and instead, today, we experience consumption and purchase of a product, just like frames for eyewear. Frames will be part of our life, just as if they were an element of biology of our life. So, something essential. And it's just like in the case of health. You shouldn't consider such themes lightly, and people have really understood it, and various generations have understood it. It's obvious that the youth, teenagers, adults and seniors do it in a different way. Of course, it's so. Everybody has their own preferences, but wanting something unique, having quality. And people speak about it on social networks, and pictures are taken and shown on Instagram and shared with the community. It is more and more important. Media buzz is no longer enough. It's no longer enough to be present everywhere, and you should do it in a credible fashion. And we speak about a final transition from visibility to credibility. And you may understand that your sector, that by definition is so visible because it's our face at the end, and our way to communicate with the others, and it should be credible at the same time. And this has to do with all the various generations. And before starting showing you results, we'd like to show you a video. And it doesn't have to do with eyewear, it doesn't have to do specifically with Italy, but it's a way of identifying this new need, and it's so interesting. You can see it together, and then we start. And from this perspective, it's something you should consider with great attention. The idea is not to celebrate a world that doesn't belong to us. I'm interested in some steps of this manifesto. First statement, low price shouldn't be considered for pleasure. Low price is a variable, and you should be smart enough when you bargain to have a better price. It stays, but it's not the central element. What is central is what is shown after. Craft on our intentions and to craft something based on our project of life. And to do this, we have to say so many no's. And this is a way of working of Renaissance shops in the past, and we all originate from this concept. In our DNA, we have this idea of creative selection based on excellence and on doing something better than anybody else. At a certain point, it is stated, we perfect and simplify life. All of such things should be duly considered because there will be a beacon not for the next 1 year or 2 years, but for the next 10 years, because the world of consumption is changing and is following this direction. And let's now consider the first age group. First age group that has assimilated such things in the course of time, the age group that is defined as unique sons. It's not lonely children, but it's from 25 to 40 years of age, persons that lived in the society of made in Italy fashion system in the 80s. In the 80s, some of them were 10, 7, 8 years old, and they have this idea that aesthetics counts. Aesthetics is not just style. Aesthetics come from Greek aesthesis, and it means feeling, and it's again quality of life. And for unique sons, daily performance is important. The eyewear that I wear every day is biologically part of my identity, and as a consequence, eyewear should be perfect, and eyewear should have no defects. And this generation, obviously, as a famous ad campaign says, this generation has grown thinking that everything is around them. They are narcissistic, and they use signs of fashion to build their own personal identity, and that's important because it is then communicated to their children and friends, partners, and from this perspective, you have a so-called grammar of revisited luxury, and the past is recovered not just with vintage, but we have one of such trends speaking about this relationship between innovation and tradition, and then elegance that is not conformism. They're not fashion victims, they are style addicted. Fashion victims rely on fashion trends and follow. Fashion addicted have their own lifestyle, but they do it in an autonomous and personal way, and trying to find uniqueness. That's why they're called unique sons, and to distinguish themselves in economic terms also, but also especially in terms of style. Here you see most important fashion bloggers, males and females alike, those that consider the world of food design as a new reservoir in a way to define their own strength, and for them the star system is important, brands are important. However, just if they behave in this way, as we can see in this video.
Can you tell me what I'm thinking of? My neck's so heavy from a head full of fresh ideas. I can't help how my mind wanders and it takes me here. I was dreaming of another girl. I was lying by your side, dreaming of another girl. I was lying by your side. Is it lonely being famous? Is there danger? Are you dangerous? My neck's so heavy from a head.
Proprio.
So it's a micro-documentary film that explains and describes the people. So as you have understood, these are not the typical characters of a star system. They are influencers, they may be journalists, web influencers, bloggers, actresses. This is the new dimension. This is the new social fabric that is used to create the cultural credibility of a brand, of a project, or of a product. Clearly enough, the web makes a difference in this respect, but it is also important to realize that for them, online and offline are the same thing. It's the same tale, the same dimension, the same experience. It is a unique world, which is also based on similarities. So they are similar not only due to their age, to their economic status, but also due to their ability of interpreting reality and creating new styles and designs. A protagonist of today's world has to cope with this dimension. Unique suns are very important also to engage, not only to reach and to approach in terms of target, as it was the case in the past, but also to engage. So this typical American approach of identifying the target and reaching the target, but this is no longer enough. You have to create a trust and to engage them in terms of trust and sharing. And this is a new paradigm for the future. I share whereby I trust, and at the same time I work on credibility. I do this through time, and I do this with a great strength. What are glasses to them? They are icons of themselves. So they are clearly a very important accessory, a very important element in building their identity, in creating their style addiction. And within the framework of their style addition, accessories in general and glasses in particular play a paramount role. But another paradigm is the so-called quick and nip, that is the timeliness. You have to be present on the market as soon as you launch new products. And Burberry is a company that approaches the market this way. You may have read in these days during the Milanese Fashion Week, most of the fashion designers have realized that there must not be a wide gap between the fashion show and the launch of products onto the market. We have been telling that for a decade, and now we have reached the target. Everything is going to change. Fashion times are changing. This may be an effect of social networks, that's right, but at the same time, fashion networks are the result of these people, of these young adults that influenced the web, and Zuckerberg can be considered a unique son in this respect, and for many different reasons. And then, of course, it is also important to see all these theories put into practice on the streets. It is also important to see how these different styles and designs are mixed and matched with one another. But you no longer have to focus on cool hunting, take pictures, and stealing ideas from smart young adults. The idea is that of including and identifying these elements and including these elements in the product. You have to understand these people, where they come from, what their values are, and what they're going to and where they're going to go in the future. We have to focus on the future if we want to approach the future correctly. And the retail plays a fundamental role in this respect. As we heard, by retail we no longer mean the store or the web world. We mean both of them at the same time. It's the idea of clicking on a button and establishing a relationship, engaging in a relationship with a product that is going to make me happy on a daily basis. And for them, the product has to have these features, uniqueness, gratification, alternative luxury. And this is what we can find when we select case histories. In this case, we don't select the mainstream examples that all of us can identify. This is our correspondent in Buenos Aires, for instance, who pointed out this business case, which is very interesting because it reflects many of the values I've been describing. Charlie Tabashek, it is a kind of artisan company with the idea of manufacturing few pairs of glasses on a monthly basis. They're all made of wood, a very special African type of wood. And these glasses are sold and co-opted in stores around the world. So this is the typical style of Unique Sons. I explore, I look for products, and I build up my uniqueness by engaging with some manufacturers or some distributors who already realized that idea. And this is again the common denominator between Unique Sons and companies. This is blogs and portals. This is just an example, but the world of Unique Sons is a world where sharing on the web is extremely important, even though they are unique. And what does that all mean? We no longer talk about targets, we focus on engagement and customer care. These are the two most important things nowadays. Engagement means I no longer identify myself with a brand. The typical total look of the 80s and 90s no longer exists. I want to identify elements that can be enshrined in my own personality, and I want to engage myself psychologically, physically. I want to participate, I want to be part of a community, and I want to be able to go out of the community and enter another community. You no longer belong to a tribe as it was the case in the 80s. You see, you have to be simple, but never banal, never trivial. You have to look for excellent experience. You have to guarantee these experience, and I have to listen to what these people tell us. At the same time, we also have to open up a new dimension in our company, that is experimentation, testing, and they, the Unique Sons, may also become our ambassadors in this respect. And this is another change. A customer care no longer means providing somebody else with what he's looking for. This means engaging their own sensitivity in order to establish partnerships for lifestyle projects. The classical sponsorship is valueless because all the cards have been shown. It is like crowdfunding. You support projects that you consider as interesting and that help you completing your position on the market. This is just a breakdown. We have 6 different personalities like this. We are going to focus on a second one, but I think you have realized the rationale of this observatory. Let's focus on over 65, over 70 year-old people. We start with the definition, pleasure growers. This is a sort of a pun, the idea that the more you grow, the more senior you become. So the longer you live, the greater your desire is to regenerate your hedonism. Well, this is not the typical hedonism of the 80s. It is rather the desire to feel well, its quality of life, the idea of being beautiful, handsome, the idea of being recognized by one's own peers and by other generations too. Comfort, well-being is important, but it is never a commodity. It is never trivial or banal. It is sought after. It is fine. Attention for details, smart, intelligent hedonism. Consumer purchasing is also experiential for them. They no longer play cards. They are 70-year-olds who travel around the world. They no longer work. They also helped their families overcome the crisis, and now by right they want to be happy, they want to be rewarded. They are becoming a fundamental age group in the market. Italy has an average age of 45, Argentina has an average age, and Brazil too, of 28. So there's a huge difference between Italy and other countries. We are a country, we are a continent which will have to cope with millions of such people with specific needs, and we have to pay attention to that. Well, having 70 years of experience in the purchasing world makes these people much more demanding, much more challenging, much more difficult to fulfill. They focus on quality, and here we go back to the idea of excellence. They will not forgive you. They want to feel unique, the unique sons. They will not forgive you because they are intelligent, they have experience. They will immediately discriminate between image and substance. The awareness, which is not simply a flat style. So irony, intelligence are extremely effective for them. And the video that we selected with Valentina is a video that will make you smile. If you remember Monty Python, you will recognize.
Right.
Please insert the key.
Yes, I am inserting it, thank you. Come on. Start!
Please insert the key.
I have inserted it, you cretin!
Incorrect starting procedure.
Right! This is your last warning. I'll count to 3. 1, 2...
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Right! That's it! Don't say I didn't warn you. I've had it up to here with you. I'm gonna give you a damn good thrashing. I'm gonna teach you a lesson. Nasty little... Dusty bonnet there. Oh, look!
So even if you you cannot see very well, you hardly admit that. So there are psychological implications that have to be taken into account, but that's really great. So the claim we have chosen, glasses as a window on the future. So not only do glasses help you see better when you have a lower vision, but glasses as accessories complete your face, complete your facial expression, and they testify your willingness to be projected to the future and your willingness to test new technologies, even though we are not able to do this very well. But we have great statistics showing that grandparents learn to use Skype in order to chat with their grandchildren studying overseas, and they do so out of motivation. They do so because their grandchildren taught them how to use Skype, but they have to have a great motivation behind their decisions. This is a world which is not only to keep elderly people alive and dynamic, it is a great lab, a laboratory where new parts are tested and that can be also useful and applied to other generations. This is also a very important element. Working on a generation doesn't mean isolating one target group. It means identifying groups of people who nowadays are in close relationship with other generations, and they can provide us with great input. It is a market which has not been saturated yet, and creative designers have not focused on that group yet, because they have always been considered as a marginal group. The pleasure growers are those people who, when getting older, want to live well, they want to increase their pleasure. And this is a world, this is an age group that has to be studied with the utmost attention. In terms of retail, in terms of distribution, this means that there are important steps to go through. Clearly enough, customer care for them is extremely important. Big chains, and this is a business case. It is a French chain that you all know, Elena Felou. This chain offers the new types of services, the new kind of support, the right type of support, but they also chose the right ambassador, Sharon Stone. He's not a teenager, she's not 70, she's 56, but for sure she becomes a great driver and a great ambassador to testify that you can be beautiful and handsome also if you are 50, 60 and 70, and you can be so by being natural. She's one of the few actresses that did not undergo surgery, and this is the reason why she was chosen as an ambassador. And then we also have some more extreme cases, advanced style, for instance, focus on over 70-year-olds only. It is ironic, it has a great success, it is followed. There is a huge potential for growth in this market and in this market niche. This doesn't apply to Italy and Europe only, but also to many other markets in the world. Pay attention to that, because in that case you can really make a huge difference. Clearly enough, in this case you have to match your ability to create a credibility and service, and at the same time courage to surprise people. And this is what marketing has learned to do. They no longer provide consumers with what they expect to find. They also try to imagine and guess what they are looking for, and trying to offer them this in order to be rewarded. Of course, there's a huge gap between data that are important because they give us an idea about the market's weight, but this is no longer enough. We have to look into the future and forecast future expectations and future desires. This is what innovation has always done, and this is what we have to pursue in the years ahead too. In conclusion, I would like to hand over to Valentina. Valentina will tell you about the outcomes and the elements that we identified from these three trends. Well, they may sound banal and well known to you, but it is also interesting to analyze the world and the world trends. Thank you, Francesco.
Mi sembrava un annuncio importante, quello del Bestore. Dunque, l'annuncio...
So the announcement was important. Thank you very much, Francesco. In reality, I would like to describe the third trend that was identified in this research. The Observatory, as I said, took a rather different approach, not the typical approach of catwalks and fashion shows. We tried to analyze how people interpret trends and relaunch them. So the third trend I would like to describe is the edgy borders trend. Edgy is a word that is increasingly replacing the word cool, so it is exaggerated coolness. And we liked this pun and this match between edgy and border that, as far as glasses are concerned, reminds us of the frame that frames the face. This trend focuses on avant-garde, on trends coming from the design and art world. And the pictures that we selected and that we would like to show to you depict real works of art, real sculptures for the face. It is interesting to see that materials, that colors, that inspirations from the art world are applied to small objects that, however, are extremely important for the people because they frame the eyes and the face. And this idea of framing plays a fundamental role in fashion for all the generations. As Francesco hinted at earlier, we don't see only pictures of teenagers and young adults. The picture in the middle, for instance, shows an older woman. So this idea of a small object that allows to experiment with materials and designs is extremely important. Here you see the three trends. On one side you see artistic overlapping. You see that art, artistic inspiration, design are applied on glasses by exceeding the borders, and then material egocentricity, and by that we mean the central role of material in glasses, and formal extravagance. On the one hand, we can say that glasses are the ideal object for that, but it is also a rather limited object that, however, can express this desire very well. We said art. As we know, in the past years, art has been much more than a mere inspiration. We have seen, for instance, that many artists have played with fashion too, so they established partnerships and collaborations with fashion designers exceeding the borders and overlapping the two worlds. In glasses, you can do so with colors, by playing with colors, by drawing inspiration from works of art, by mixing and matching also unusual materials. And interestingly, we see that both on lenses and on frames. We have seen many lenses, not only tinted lenses, but also designed starting from the color, and this is a different thing. There are many shades and nuances, colors that are unusual for lenses. So the idea of artistic overlapping is an important topic. Then secondly, materials play a very important role both in fashion and in glasses. So materials are very interesting. You experiment with atypical materials within the limits of production, of course, but there is a desire for exceeding the borders, for experimenting and trying new materials, and this is extremely interesting. And this applies not only to catwalks and fashion shows. And I insist on that. Fashion and the world of fashion, the fashion industry, tends to show trends on the catwalks, and this was actually true in the past years, but this is no longer the case. We see that many trends and phenomena that were driven by fashion and by the publishing world too, are then rejected by the general public. Therefore, it is always important to take an integrated approach. Of course, we have to focus on the fashion industry and we have to identify the trends coming from the fashion industry, but we also have to see how the general public interpret these trends. The woman in Milan is extremely interesting. You see the glasses with a lot of material, so you see this material egocentricity, but you see that this design project starts from the very skin of that woman. So not only clothes are important, but also tattoos, this idea of interpreting the way you live and the way you approach your life. So you see different designs and different styles, and then we said formal extravagance is also a topic. And this is something which has become very evident in the fashion world and in the aesthetic world in general. In the last 6-8 years, aesthetics has focused very much on materials, whereby shape has played a secondary role. In the past months, in the last year, this has changed, and we have a new balance between material and shape. So shape has become essential again, and this applies in particular to glasses. As you can see in the pictures, not only are materials important, but the design the borders of the project play a fundamental role. Good. So we are about to conclude our speech. We want to stick to the time allotted to us. But before concluding, we should give you some clear take-home message. So you as journalists, as protagonists of this role within this cycle of production and sale. Clearly enough, if we consider and if we cross the 6 age groups with their features and the trends, we identify a scenario which is a kind of a big puzzle, and each age group has its own importance within a specific trend. Unique scents, for instance, that we saw earlier, are very strong in the first trend. That is the new relationship between past and future, which is no longer vintage, it's something new. Sense girls and normal breakers, for instance, are 2 age groups willing to experiment, in the case of girls, and to experiment with new ideas, as it was the case for normal breakers. Normal breakers are the 65-year-old people coming from the 1968 era with their own experience that they still apply in their daily life, their desire to break the rules. So such a radical approach is extremely important, but the play is fully open. We no longer identify a target by its own style, and this is a revolution for the professionals in the field. You may say, well, this is also a great confusion, a great chaos. How can I approach this new world? We always suggest to start from one's own credibility, from one's own DNA. Each company, each creative has his or her own strength. So we should start from our strengths, but at the same time we should also try and understand how we can cope with this melting pot of ideas and features, and we have to be consistent in this approach, because this is going to be the path that we can go along. So we can no longer ask our consumers about their desires and we then fulfill their desires. Well, we never did so. We always tried to materialize what was interesting to us, but we have to create this link with the new world. And if we do so, 2016 is going to be a great year, but the near future can really open up fully unexpected horizons. So the consumer author is the new character. We are no longer passive consumers, we are active consumers designing our own life and valuing those brands that provide us with new stimuli. This is going to be the direction for the future. And with that, I would like to thank you all, and I would like to thank Emilio for allowing us to open this observatory. And again, in the Morace space, you will find all the pictures and all the videos related to the new trends. Thank you very much.
Di ringraziare Francesco e Valentina.
I'd like to thank Francesco and Valentina for the very good presentation, but also for the good performance. First of all, thank you so much for being here with us. And I'd like to remind you, as was said short ago, that at 1:30 we shall have an award-winning ceremony at the Fashion District Pavilion number 1. And selection was made by an international jury. A set of experts sent pictures, and it follows the logic of experience. It's not just purchasing experience, but also it's the experience inside the store. I'll wait for you there. Thank you so much.